The presence of the United States Navy in the heart of the Middle East is not merely a military mission. It is a high-stakes strategic calculation regarding global energy and spatial hegemony. Let's deconstruct this issue in today's video. The true power of an empire lies not in the roar of cannons, but in the ability to orchestrate fear through silence. Against the backdrop of tensions in West Asia in 2026, we witness a paradox. The stillness of the sea is not an expression of peace, but a form of calculated, deferred violence. The U.S. Navy does not need to flaunt its firepower on news feeds every hour. Instead, it maintains a pervasive presence. It is a state in which the adversary constantly feels watched by a massive electronic eye, where every intent to escalate is stifled while still on the operational drawing board. This is the art of strategic psychological control, paralyzing the opponent by making it impossible to predict the breaking point of a lurking giant. To decode the nature of this powerful entity, we must look back at history to see that it is not a random product of the era. Forged in the bloody confrontations of the Pacific in the mid-1940s, this unit carries the DNA of annihilative warfare. However, its rebirth in the mid-90s carried a completely different mission to become the gatekeeper for the economic lifeblood of global capitalism. Establishing its headquarters in Bahrain right at the doorstep of potential adversaries is akin to placing a dagger at the opponent's most sensitive spot. It shifted the posture from an expeditionary force to a permanent garrison, transforming international waters into a home pond under special surveillance. Regional geopolitics is, in essence, a game played around choke points, covering millions of square miles from narrow straits to vast maritime routes. This force holds the key to world energy security. With more than 1/5 of humanity's crude oil passing through the coordinates, they control any shift in formation is enough to create seismic shocks in the financial markets of London or New York. This is not just military. This is the weaponization of geography. For a nation possessing a formidable missile arsenal like Iran, confronting such a multi-layered network is a problem without a solution. This is because Washington's power here is not just aircraft carriers, but an integrated combat ecosystem. The structure of this network can be likened to an intelligent biological entity with perfect defensive and offensive capabilities. Supercarriers are not just mobile airfields. They are symbols of territorial sovereignty, capable of moving 500 nautical miles per day. Accompanying them are destroyers equipped with the Aegis defense system, electromagnetic shields, capable of neutralizing volleys of ballistic missiles right from the atmosphere. But perhaps most terrifying are the nuclear-powered stealth killers lurking deep beneath the ocean. This invisible presence exerts invisible pressure on the adversary's military leadership. They know they are being targeted, but they never know where the barrel of the gun is pointed. The synergy between branches from Marines ready for amphibious assault to space warfare units has turned the Gulf into a laboratory for high-tech warfare. In modern military science, maintaining a posture as still as a maiden, as the ancients said, is no longer about hiding weakness, but about optimizing the ability to react with lightning speed when the moment arrives. The danger does not lie in when the shots are fired, but in a preparation so perfect that it makes the opponent understand any wrong move will lead to a preordained conclusion. That is how an oceanic fleet reshapes the political map of an entire continent, sometimes without ever firing a single bullet. In the strategic chessboard of West Asia, the presence of the U.S. Navy is not merely a show of muscle, but the execution of a military doctrine based on absolute dominance in perception and reaction. The core of this strategy lies in the ability to transition from passive deterrence to active destruction in a split second. From a geopolitical perspective, this is a psychological game where Washington maintains a pressurized silence, forcing the opponent to reveal vulnerabilities before launching decisive strikes. This silence is not passivity. It is an electronic ecosystem operating at peak intensity, where artificial brains and algorithms scan for the slightest fluctuations on the ground and in the sky. This superiority stems from the ability to establish a transparent cognitive dome, where E-2D, Advanced Hawkeye early warning aircraft, act as aerial conductors. Rather than being mere mobile radar stations, these eagle eyes serve as data integration hubs, turning the entire battlefield into a transparent chessboard. From a strategic altitude, they not only detect flying objects, but also analyze trajectories, identify targets, and distribute tasks to combat units below. This creates a common operational picture, helping commanders in the Middle East see through every move by Tehran the moment those moves are still just ideas. This is the power of information. He who sees first holds the lifeblood of the war. Parallel to the ability to see through the fog of war is a defensive system that is symbolic of American power, the Aegis complex. In the context of 2026, Aegis is no longer just a radar and interceptor missile system. It has become a comprehensive protective algorithm. With the AN/SPY, one phased array radar, Arleigh Burke-class destroyers establish an inviolable forbidden zone where any attempt at an Iranian sea of missiles becomes obsolete. The terror of kinetic intercept technology in the SM-3 missile line lies in the fact that it turns the opponent's own velocity into a weapon of self-destruction. A head-on collision in the stratosphere is not just a feat of precision engineering, but a political message. Every investment in an adversary's ballistic missile arsenal can be neutralized by a single intercept algorithm. Once the defense has created an absolute safe zone, the U.S. fleet begins the dynamic suppression phase of Operation Epic Fury. This is when the Tomahawk swords execute their mission. Unlike conventional artillery, Tomahawks are flying algorithms capable of terrain-matching logic. Their ability to fly extremely low, weaving through the folds of the Iranian highlands, makes them invisible to even the densest air defense networks. Unleashing hundreds of cruise missiles in a short period is not just aimed at destroying physical targets like ammunition depots or command centers, but at crushing the opponent's will to resist and their capacity to conduct war from the very first hours of the conflict. However, the true strength lies in the resonance between carrier strike groups and next-generation fighter wings. The F-35C aircraft are not just fighters, they are nodes in a tactical information network, allowing the U.S. to conduct surgical strikes with meter-level precision without having to face air defenses head-on. The rhythmic coordination between divine eyes in the air and electronic ghosts at sea creates a multi-layered siege. While the opponent is still struggling to deal with long-range airstrikes, Marine expeditionary units on massive America-class amphibious assault ships are ready for direct land intervention scenarios. The final notable point in this power structure is the amphibious force and breakthrough transport vehicles like the MV-22B Osprey. The Osprey's ability to transition flexibly between helicopter and jet modes has blurred all geographical barriers, allowing special forces to reach the most sensitive targets deep within enemy territory. This is the Pentagon's dagger hidden in the sleeve, a force capable of appearing anywhere at any time to perform rescue or neutralization missions without the need for fixed land bases. This entire system, from satellites and early warning aircraft to underwater special ops teams, has turned the Fifth Fleet into a transcendent entity, capable of dictating the order of the Middle East through absolute superiority in technology and tactical thinking. The pinnacle of sophistication in Washington's modern military doctrine lies not in the massive hulls of steel floating on the surface, but rather in the dark zones of the ocean. Beneath the waves of the Persian Gulf, Virginia-class nuclear attack submarines operate as ghost-like entities, serving not only as long-range fire platforms, but also as coordination hubs for elite Navy SEALs. Moving away from classic large-scale amphibious assaults, American strategists now prioritize surgical precision, utilizing high-tech hyperbaric chambers to insert special operations teams into defensive jugulars, such as the port of Bandar Abbas. The objective is not to level a city, but to silently neutralize the adversary's radar systems and sea mine networks. This is an incredibly subtle psychological strike, plunging the opponent into a state of extreme paranoia as they become unable to discern the boundary between peace and war, or between safety and the threat of internal liquidation. Looking deeper into rescue operations, exemplified by the search for the crew of the downed Stride Eager aircraft, in the mountains of central Iran we see a clear shift in the logic of intervention. The power of the Fifth Fleet is defined by its multifaceted presence. They do not need to maintain tens of thousands of ground troops to control territory. Instead, they deploy small, ultra-elite groups, supported by a seamless network of firepower and intelligence. The synergy between marine expeditionary capabilities and tilt-rotor transport, like the MV-22B Osprey, allows the U.S. to execute spatial penetration missions at speeds far exceeding the reaction time of any traditional defensive force. In this context, the Fifth Fleet is more than a military unit. It is a strategic director, holding the power to rewrite the regional script according to the White House's will. Through a geopolitical lens, the ability to determine the destiny of the world with a single stroke lies in the perfect integration of offense and defense. While the Aegis system serves as an electronic filter that eliminates any threat from enemy missiles, Tomahawk strikes act as punitive blades aimed directly at the nerve centers of leadership. This fluidity reflects the philosophy that war has no constant form. There is no fixed operational template. The Fifth Fleet can manifest as a still lake observing quietly, but can instantly transform into an electromagnetic storm that obliterates all capacity for resistance. Controlling strategic choke points like the Strait of Hormuz or oil shipping lanes is not just a military feat. It is how the U.S. keeps its thumb on the pulse of the global economy, forcing all rivals to submit to the posture it has painstakingly constructed. However, a sober observer must admit that no system is invincible. War is always accompanied by risk variables and inevitable losses, much like the collisions or technical failures that occur amidst the heat of conflict. But the distinction between a superpower and regional powers lies in the capacity for endurance and damage control. While American losses might only be technical ripples, their counterstrikes aim for the systemic collapse of the opponent, from energy infrastructure to the very legitimacy of the ruling apparatus. This is a game of calculated trade-offs, where the winner is the one who knows how to maintain the rhythm of the war after every stumble, rather than being swept into a vortex of chain reaction collapse. Ultimately, the power of the Fifth Fleet in the 21st century is not measured by the volume of ammunition expended, but by the ability to paralyze the enemy's will before the first shot is even fired. By mastering data networks and irreplaceable geographical positions, the U.S. has created a universal entity that can expand and adapt to the most extreme scenarios. In a volatile world, the winner is not necessarily the fastest or the strongest, but the one who foresees the moves of history and knows how to position themselves to dictate them. This is a costly lesson in the mindset of control. Maintaining one's posture on the political chessboard is far more vital than winning an isolated battle, for that posture is what silently shapes the order of the entire region in the long run.